This is Channel 18's coverage of the 2015 Nantucket Book Festival. I'm Charley Walters, and I'm sitting here at the White Elephant Village at Nantucket Island Resorts in downtown Nantucket. And I'm with one of the festival's participants, Wendy Rouillard, the author of the Barnaby series of children's books. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Barnaby is a white bear. Mm-hmm. Is he a polar bear?
He's a polar bear.
He is a polar bear.
He's a stylized polar bear.
And over the last 20 years, you've written and illustrated, is it 13 books?
13 books, exactly.
And you publish them as well.
Yes.
Let's get back to that later. What age group were these aimed at?
So I have board books for ages newborn to 3 years old. And then I have a line of picture books, which is 3 to 7. And I'm actually working on a new chapter book, which will be for children ages 5 and up.
And where did the idea for Barnaby come from?
Barnaby was based on a bear that was my grandmother's. And I attended Parsons School of Design, and my senior thesis was writing and illustrating my first book about Barnaby. So I spent a whole year at Parsons School of Design designing this bear and coming up with the concept and writing and illustrating my first book.
So that's one of the 13 books?
That's one of the 13 books, and I had spent summers out here in college. So I thought how amazing it would be to have a bear who lived on Nantucket.
If there's such a thing as a typical Barnaby book, what would it be? I
feel as though Barnaby's Treehouse is the kind of typifies Barnaby. They're all different. They're all his different adventures that take place on the island.
And since there are different age groups involved, of course, you have to alter things according to that.
Yes.
You know, what a 10-year-old will understand, a 3-year-old won't.
Exactly.
How common is it to write and illustrate at the same time one's own book?
I think it's fairly common. I feel fortunate that I can do both because as I write the story, I always visualize what the pictures would be. And I think it would be a little more challenging to work with someone else when you have a vision in mind as the writer. So I feel lucky to be able to do both.
Now, do you start with the plot, or do you start with the illustration, or?
I always start with the plot. I always write the book first, and then I'll sketch, and then once the sketches are completed, I'll then paint the illustrations.
How many illustrations don't you use, would you say? I mean, how many don't fit in or you're not happy with, or are there any that you're not happy with in the course of the illustrating?
Yes, I mean, usually I'll sketch each drawing, and that process could be 2 or 3 different images, and then I'll choose one before moving on to the next page. I will never paint until I am pleased with all the sketches, but I will make mistakes as I'm painting, and so then I'll have to start all over again.
With the sketch?
No, with the painting,
with the painting,
actually. But the sketches could take easily 6 months to sketch each drawing for the book.
Do you write the whole book and then finish the illustrations, or are you working simultaneously
No,
on both parts?
I complete the book first, the text, and then once that is completed, I'll then figure out the pagination and then I'll start sketching.
And how long ordinarily is it? Or does it
The whole
vary
process,
from book to book?
The process takes about a year. Now with 2 children, it takes me about a year and a half to complete a book.
Do these come on ebook as well?
Not yet. I'm hoping.
Now, is that a whole different kettle of fish because you've got so many illustrations to reproduce?
And I still love, I'm still sort of fighting the technology there because I still love to climb into bed and read to my girls every night and still have an actual book that we're holding. And so, because I still hand paint every illustration, and none of my drawings are done on computer, as a lot of books are done these days. Mm-hmm. And so I still really like the feeling of holding a book.
Would you eventually use a computer, do you think?
No, I don't think I ever will, actually. I don't. No, I love the process of painting. I love sitting down and painting, and I don't think I'll ever I'll ever transition to that.
Are there non-Barnaby books out there that you have done?
I have done 2 books for a nonprofit organization called I Know I Can. And Techie Shackelford actually was the founder of I Know I Can, and she lives here on the island in the summer. And she hired me to do 2 books for her organization. And all the money from those 2 books goes to help children in inner cities go to college. So I've done those 2 other books, but that's it.
Do you want to do more non-Barnaby?
I have other characters. I would love to take some of Barnaby's friends and turn them into a series one day. But I have so many more adventures that I want to tell, and I never get bored with Barnaby. If anything, I'm excited and more excited. So I really would love to stick with my own characters, or obviously with Barnaby.
So you're writing the Barnaby stories, you're illustrating the Barnaby stories. Does someone edit you?
Yes.
And how do you handle that?
Yes, I have different people actually locally who help me with that, because I'm a horrible editor. I need someone to look over it and review it, and so over the years I have found great writers on the island who help me.
It's easy to understand someone editing text, but is there an equivalent with the illustrations? I mean, you wouldn't be editing an illustration, but
No.
is there a similar or a parallel process with the illustrations?
I don't. I'll share them with my family or with my kids, and they definitely have their say. But no, I pretty much, I don't have anyone really on the outside looking at the drawings.
Now, once you've finished the books
Mm-hmm.
and you're publishing them yourselves, that's a whole other side of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like, to be the producer of the work and the person who's trying to get the printer to do the right thing and so
Right.
on?
It's been an interesting process. I started at such a young age. I thought, what a great idea, senior year of college, to go and I'll just print the book and then I'll sell it. And it was amazing coming out here and being able to kind of I have a marketing degree as well, and sort of change hats and then start selling. And I was very naive back then, and so I kind of took this on. But it's interesting. It's another whole side, obviously, of the equation. And eventually, my goal in the next year or 2 is to sell Barnaby or work with a bigger publisher who can help me.
So do you actually go to the printer and pick out the paper and all that sort of thing?
Everything.
And make sure the binding?
Yes, everything. From the background colors to the paper, to how many I'm going to print, to every single detail. The price of the book, everything.
That sounds though it would take a long time, but maybe not.
It does, actually, and I feel like as though
Is it a month or?
To print, or that whole process?
The process of making sure that's being done to your specifications.
It takes 2 months, at least.
And how far do you have to travel to do that?
I use different printers all over the country, so it depends. If it's a board book, it's done with a different printer. If it's a picture book, I have printers up in Maine. It just depends.
But it's hands-on.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if it's in Maine, you go to Maine. If it's in
Yes.
California, you go to California.
Yes, because there's a certain quality that I like, and I've always been very hands-on with the whole process.
And once you've done all that, once you've written, once you've illustrated, once the printer has done his or her job, then you have to distribute it,
Yes.
which is a whole other ball
Yes.
game. Tell us about that.
I'm fortunate enough to have so many wonderful independent bookstores who support Barnaby. So when there's a new book, it's just a matter of letting them know the new book is coming. And so that process has been a little bit easier. But I spent years driving around the country, hand selling each book, walking into each bookstore and getting to know the bookstore owners. Years. And so I now have relationships with most of these, or a lot of the independents. So it becomes a little bit easier, but it's still never easy.
So you're your own wholesaler, it sounds like.
Yes.
When you have a new book come out, you notify the bookstores,
Yes.
and they get in touch with you,
Yes.
and you're responsible for sending everything out.
Yes. And so it's a huge job. So as I would down the line like to eventually work with someone who can help me with that.
And then there's publicity.
Yes.
You do that as well.
Yes.
When do you find time to write and illustrate?
I don't. That's the problem. I can't. I wake up very, very early, at 4 a.m. many mornings to work.
It sounds as if the non-writing and non-illustrating takes up almost as much time as, or not about the same amount of time as everything else.
Yes, which is why I eventually would love to work with someone who can kind of take that part over, so I can just write and illustrate.
Now, we can see over here, and I've seen down at Mitchell's, you have Barnaby stuffed animals.
Yes.
You designed those, I assume.
Yes.
And is it the same process? You go to the factory that makes them, and you make sure that the colors are right, and there's enough stuffing in there, and
And they're all child tested and hypoallergenic, and
who chooses the size?
I do.
Really?
So I have 3 different sizes of bears.
Now, you're a year-round resident,
Yes,
and you've been a year-round resident for how long?
21 years.
So all of your work, except when you're traveling to a printer, is done here.
It's done here.
Can you get anything done in the summertime?
Well, it's interesting because this is the first time that I've actually had to write a book in the summer. I signed on with a wonderful new agent in New York, and she said we would like a chapter book, which I've never done before, as well as a picture book. So I usually do not write in the summer, and I'm usually just focused on publicity. But this summer, I have that challenge, so it'll be interesting.
And if they want a stuffed animal, your customers, again, come to you.
Yes, the stores will call me and order more bears or tote bags I have as well. And
Now, do you sell through the big online people as well? I mean,
yes, Amazon.
yeah.
Yes, Amazon and Toys R Us and Barnes & Noble, selective stores carry Barnaby as well.
And again, they come to you directly.
Yes.
You send directly to them.
Yes.
So talk some more about what you're working on now.
So now I'm working on a book proposal, actually, which for the next couple of months, which has been a lot of fun. I'm writing a new chapter book for Barnaby, and I'm writing a new picture book, and we're hoping eventually to approach a larger publisher and so to work with a larger publisher with Barnaby. So I'm putting together a book proposal, basically, which will take me all summer to do.
And when might the book come out, or is it too soon to say?
It's too soon to say, but that's what I'm working on at the time. So.
Wendy Rouillard, thanks very much for coming in for the interview.
And thanks for having me.
For Channel 18's coverage of the 2015 Nantucket Book Festival, I'm Charley Walters. Thank you again to Nantucket Island Resorts for the use of the White Elephant Village, and thank you for tuning in.